How about now? Sound now? Yay and nay? See what's going on down here in OBS. They're saying I got audio. Good to go. Alright. Alright, today's subject is going to be water changes. And what prompted me to talk about this was this tank right here. Last week, doing my water changes, which was, I do water changes Saturday and Sunday. And I do about 10 tanks each day. I have roughly 20 tanks. And this tank right here, when I was filling it back up, I did about a 60% water change. And I forgot to put prime in when I filled it back up. Ended up killing 2 of my fish. So, wanted to talk a little bit about water changes, why we do them, how to do them, when to do them, how much to change when you do a water change, all that fun stuff. But I figured I'd start out with just why we do a water change. And for most people, everybody thinks that water changes are there to just take out nitrates, and for the most part that's correct. But even in a system that has denitrifying bacteria and everything, running at 0 nitrates, 0 nitrites, 0 ammonia, perfect system, even after a while, if you're just doing top-ups, what you'll do is you'll run out of, see how to put this, your fish, your plants, everything alive in there is constantly using up nutrients. And if you're just doing top-ups, especially with just tap water, your top-ups are going to contain all types of minerals in them, and some of those minerals aren't going to be used. So eventually you're going to have a buildup of minerals that aren't being used or anything, and it's going to cause either a pH, GH, or KH crash in your tank eventually. It could be, a year's time, could be up to 10 years time, depending on how, what minerals are being used and all that. But it will eventually happen. And so a lot of people think that you can just use RO water or, demineralized water as top-up water. But again, you're going to run into the same problem, but on the other side. You're going to have too low of nutrient content where you should have others, because you won't be replenishing everything back with just fish food and all that stuff. The fish waste ain't going to put all those other nutrients back in there. So eventually you'll run into a deficiency of some type of nutrient, and again cause a crash to your system. No, like the Wallstad method and everything, that's all great, but there are still small water changes that need to be done. Even in her book, she says small water changes will still need to be done because there are other types of nutrients, trace elements, minerals that are going to need to be replaced in there or are going to need to be taken out. The solution to pollution is dilution, but on the other side, you got to replenish other stuff, See who's in the chat here. We got Dank Tanks. What's going on, man? We got New England Inler. And we've got my wife, Mama 3. See if anybody else is in here yet. No, just 3 of us watching. Okay, yeah, that's the reason why we do them. We have to export nutrients out of the tank, and we got to import nutrients back into the tank that are being used up and taken out. Like I said, fish are going to use, their certain set of nutrients. Plants are going to use their set of nutrients, but there's always going to be something that doesn't get used, or something that's getting overly used. Whether that be like copper, say, something that's harmful to invertebrates and everything. So once that copper level becomes too high in there, your shrimp, your snails, stuff like that's going to start dying off. Anybody have any questions about that? Nobody else in the chat yet? How's everybody doing today? Been doing pretty good. We've been putting in some work out there in the pond. You can probably hear my dog out there barking right now. We've got it about 1.5 feet deep out there in one end, and then got it down to about 2 foot in the other end. And still got quite a bit of digging to do, but it's coming along. They must have found a cat or something. Huh. I'm not getting any new messages in chat. Is anybody chatting with me? Guess not. Okay. Well, we'll be moving on then. Next, I want to talk about, how often or when you should do your water changes. And that's going to be different for everybody's tanks. You could set up a tank that would need exactly the same amount of water changes. It'd be hard to do, but for the most part, everyone's going to need a different amount of water change. A different water change schedule, different amount per water change, and a different, how often they do it. For the most part, my tanks get a once a week water change, but those tanks get anywhere from a 10% water change, all the way up to maybe a 80% water change on some tanks. Number 3, how important is safe or dechlorinator? It's very important, and these fish right here can tell you that they're important because I lost 2 of them out of there. What do you think of using small amounts of worm castings and bat guano instead of root tabs? See, I don't know about all that stuff. I can't really go into that. I don't know. I haven't played with any of the soils. I'm just now getting into planted tanks, really. But I know that even using the worm castings and the bat guano, there's going to be some nutrient in there that's going to need to be taken out or added in eventually, somewhere down the line. Whether it be 10 years down the line or a year down the line, eventually something's going to need to come out or go in, and you won't know that unless you're water testing and everything. And not all those elements are going to pop up on water tests. Only some are. You could get, really expensive water tests, but why would you want to do that when it's as simple as, doing maybe like a 10% water change once a month? Some of those tanks can get down to where you would only do them, maybe a 10-20% water change even every 6 months or something. But for the most part, your drinking water out of the tap and out of a well is going to have basically every nutrient that that's needed for safe water at a decent level. It may not be at the right level of everything, perfect, but it's going to be at a decent level, most tap waters and most well water. Like I said, a lot of people think that RO will do the trick. You're still going to eventually run into a problem. It just may take longer. What do you think of using small? Okay, I just read that one. I try to avoid chemicals going back to the organics when I run out of the root tabs. Yeah, I agree. I try to stay out of as many chemicals as I can out of my tanks. I try not to medicate as much as possible. Small bacterial infections and stuff like that, and torn fins, stuff like that. Most of that can be healed up with just good quality water. If you keep your water good quality, a lot of times you're not going to have a whole lot of problems. Where you run into the problems with your parasites, and then you need to use some type of medication, maybe some of your funguses and stuff like that. But even then, good quality water, and you're not going to have a whole lot of reason for a fungus to get started in there. The only thing I try to make sure, the only chemical that I do for sure use every time is safe. You know, well, prime if I had prime, but I use safe because it's a lot more. It goes a lot farther for the money. With 20 tanks, totaling around about 2,000 gallons, it's better for me to go with safe. You know, it lasts me probably about a year. See if I can pull out the bottle that I use. Cameras. The bottle I use is this right here. And this size bottle right here usually lasts me almost a year. Where I keep all my foods. But yeah, back to you know, the when to do them. Water testing, there's no substitute for water testing. I don't water test very often, but that's because my tanks have gotten into, you know, kind of a rhythm and everything. I know how they are. I started water testing this one again after I killed off the cycle and everything and killed fish. But for the most part, my tanks run at a pretty steady thing. I get them to where they're steady, and then, you know, don't have to have a lot of testing after that. What's up, Lumpy Dog? Lumpy Dog in the house. Yeah. You know, when I set up a new tank or something like that, I still do all my water testing and everything, but most of my established tanks, they don't get tested very often anymore. I still will test them about once a month or so just to see what's going on, make sure the nitrates aren't getting out of control or anything like that. But I use water changes, and you know, just good quality water there's no substitute for it. You know, you can use as many medications as you want to, but you need good quality water. Let's see. Yeah, you test it and you see kind of how much nitrates. You know, once you get established and everything, once your cycle is going, I'm sure everybody knows what a cycle is that's with me at the moment in the chat. But any new watchers and everything that are trying to set up your first tank or on your first tank that are trying to watch this and figure out how to change water, what you do, you test, and once you've got your cycle going and everything, your bacteria cycle, which means you have no ammonia, no nitrite, and you've got nitrates building up. And you'll notice if you'll test, you know, at the beginning of the week and then test at the end of the week when you're prepared to do a water change, and see how much those nitrates have went up. And, you know, say they started at 10 parts per million at the beginning of the week when you tested, and they're up to, you know, 30 parts per million when you get up to the end of the week. That means you're producing 20 parts per million of nitrate in, say, a 55-gallon tank. So if you were to do a 50% water change on that, you would dilute it back down to 15%. So if you're producing that 20 nitrates, that next week you're going to get it up to about 35. Then you're going to do another half water change, and it's only going to come back down to 20. So eventually you're going to end up building up nitrates there and going to need to do a larger scale water change or something like that, or do multiple water changes in a week span. Or you can go the way that I've been going now, which is add plants. Plants are going to be your best friend, which I think everybody knows. Plants are just awesome. They're green, they're beautiful, they're awesome. Let's see. Lumpy Dog, favorite question: how often should I do water changes? Answer is when the nitrates reach your maximum acceptance ppm level. Simple. That's a good way to look at it. I mean, if you've got a set bar that you want to hit, if you say you want to get it up to 20 or 30% or 30 ppm nitrates to do your water change, whether that hits every 2 days or whether that hits once a month, you know, that's a good way to do it. And that would most likely keep all your other elements and everything in check. But even my tanks where I do small water changes over the course of, like, one of my planted tanks only gets a water change maybe once a month or so, and only about a 20% change. That tank, every 6 months or so, I'll go ahead and do a 50 to 60% water change just to make sure that it's getting refreshed with all the, you know, new nutrients that it could possibly need or could possibly run, be over, over with overabundance of certain trace nutrients or whatever. Water changes are never a bad thing unless your tap water is crappy, and then you got to figure something out. RO units, something, I don't know what, but then you'll have to be dosing different stuff, and it becomes a hassle when you're trying not to change water. Over time it'll become a hassle. It seems all cool up front and everything, but the easier way to go is just to do a water change when it's necessary for you. And like Lumpy Dog said, just adjust it when there's a certain ppm. If that's every 2 weeks and you get it up to that ppm every 2 weeks, that's fine. Do that water change every 2 weeks. But if it's getting there every 2 days, don't be trying to do it once a week, because you're still going to add up on the nitrates and other things as well. Okay, New England Inler. When I do get around to changing water, I just use my glass scraper stick to stir up the buildup on the gravel. Yep, that's if you got a planted tank, that's a good thing to do there. Most planted tanks aren't going to need much of a gravel vac or anything like that, and that's the best thing to do, is to stir up all the loose stuff and get it out. But for your tanks that aren't planted, excuse me, I had to burp there. For your tanks that aren't planted or just heavily stocked or whatnot, or have a bare bottom, you're going to need to get all that out of there and gravel vac as much as you can, and because that's what's going to be holding a lot of your decomposing matter and everything. But with plants, they're going to turn that into fertilizer and use what they can of that. But again, there might end up being some type of buildup of stuff that's in that poop, and something that the fish are using but the plants aren't using, and ends up building up over time if you're not doing water changes. Lumpy Dog, adjust water change percentage and frequency to stay with nitrate max. Just takes a while to get it figured out. Yes, it's all in time. You gotta, balancing a tank takes time, and people think it can be done in a month or two. Get the cycle going and then let it sit for another month. It's possible to do it that way, but most tanks aren't going to run that way. Most tanks are going to take 6 months, a year, 2 years to get actually settled out to where you know how much water you're needing to change, and when you change that much water, it keeps your stuff at a certain level, and then you don't get algae at that level, and all your fish are right, and all that different stuff. But it takes just time and patience. Not a lot of people have enough patience in this hobby. How's it going, fish man? Lumpy Dog, my other favorite statement is I let the tank cycle for 2 weeks before I added fish. Then I ask, what was your ammonia source? I usually get a blank stare. Tanks don't cycle without ammonia. That's pretty hilarious. I've definitely seen some people on like Facebook and stuff like that that are doing that type of thing. I test my water, I do all this, but they cannot tell you any number whatsoever that of what their stuff is in the tank. But it's hilarious. New England Inler, I just siphon out the window. Same thing here. Right here on the other side of this tank is a window. I put my water hose out of there and siphon out of all the tanks and everything, and then hook it up to the shower. I've got a little connector right there that I hook it up to. Adjust my water to where it's within a couple degrees, and then let it rip. Come in here and put some safe in the tank and fill it up and move on to the next one. Lumpy Dog, keeping water change records helps. Yes, keeping water change and any other records you can keep of your fish helps. I keep records from anything from when I bought a fish. I know how old most of my fish are. I've got a book. Where's it at? I think it's in my 55-gallon stand across the way there. But I've got a book. It's called the Fish Book, and I've got almost everything about any of my fish that I could possibly think of to write down. What type of stuff they need, what their water quality tends to be like in the wild. Of course, I don't try to go for any type of pH balance or anything like that. I go for a balanced tank and a stable tank. And we're quite blessed here in West Texas where we live. We have our pH out of the tap is 7.2, so we can get stuff from hard and we can get stuff from soft and usually adjust it pretty well. You know, sometimes we have some problems. I've had a lot of problems with German blue rams, especially the wild caught ones and stuff off of Aquabid. I've tried those and I had a little bit of problems with those adjusting to our pH, but most stuff does pretty well in our neutral systems here. Fishman, great Popeye shirt. Thanks, bud. I love my Popeye shirt. Excuse me. Get some tea here. Okay. I guess the next thing to talk about would be how much water should you change, and that kind of goes back to what I was talking about a second ago, and that was you know, you just got to watch how much nitrate you build up. You know, once it hits a certain level, then you need to change it. You know, your allowance needs to be pretty low. I wouldn't, you know, not like, it doesn't need to be zero. A little bit of nitrates is good, you know, but you don't want it up there at like 80 or 100 or 120. Then it starts becoming a little toxic to your fish and stunting some growth and other things like that. But yeah, you just want to pay attention to how your tank is doing and change your water based on how your tank is. No two tanks are going to be the same. They're very, very seldom two tanks are the same. Lumpy Dog, what's new for Gaddis Aquatics? Work. Working our butts off. We've been out in the backyard digging the pond. Got the fence rebuilt right here. So I'll be putting up the tubs and getting the arowana moved out pretty soon. I've got to get my FX5 back up to par and everything, and that's what's going to be filtering the tub that they go in. So I've got to get it all situated. Got some new LED lights in the fish room. Got a couple more coming. I'm going to be building sponge filters for a rack that I'm revamping up there. If you've been paying attention to my channel, then you know that I'm producing Corys out the yin yang pretty much. And so what I'm going to do is I'm turning one of my 20-gallon tanks that was up here into my saltwater tank, and I've got a filter that I built for that, which I'll be coming out with a video here in a few days, probably tomorrow. And so I got that moved down there, and there's going to be 5 10-gallon tanks up top, 2 10-gallon tanks on the bottom, and then another 20-gallon tank. And then on the very bottom there's a 60-gallon tall that's got my red terror pair. Fishman, your Salvini are having fun behind you. Yeah, they've been on a roll. They've been I think they're getting ready to breed, hopefully. You know, I'd love to get some more babies out those guys. Most of my planted tanks drift between 10 and 40 ppm nitrates between water changes, Lumpy Dog. Yeah, that's not bad at all. That'd probably be about ideal, especially for a planted tank. You want to keep it above about 20, but I wouldn't go above anything about 60 or higher, and then you start running into your problems. 60 ppm and lower, 40 ppm and lower, that's all great. You know, most of my tanks here run at about 20 to 40 ppm. You know, sometimes I do those big water changes and I'll, you know, drop it down to 5 or something like that, but I always make sure there's at least a little something on the nitrate scale. That's about what my well water is. 7.2 New England Inler. Yeah, 7.2 pH out of your tap or out of your well is like awesome because you can get almost any type of fish to adapt to that. 7.0, 6.8 to about 7.2, that is like perfect for getting fish to adapt. And then if you can get them to breed at that, then when you sell them, they'll pretty much adapt back to whatever anybody else has. It was awesome this afternoon. I watched the peppered cories lay eggs. Yeah, we had in my 40 gallon over there, the one I did the video on a few days ago with all the jungle val and everything. My peppered cories are over there laying eggs all across the glass. She was tripping out, started screaming at me, "They're over here laying eggs!" Lumpy dog cory eggs, yeah, you gotta love them cories. And like I said, we've got like 3 or 4 types here, and they're all producing for us. So that's why I'm doing that rack revamp. That way I can, have them all over there, have them all taken care of. That way I don't have to, have one set of cories here, one set of cories here, one set of cories there. Having to pull eggs all the time and move them to one of these 10 gallons over here. I'm just going to have them all here, and once they lay, I'll move the parents to the new tank, and then if they lay again in that next tank, then I'll move eggs up to the tank that's already got eggs, Yep, she was just dancing across the glass, just laying eggs. It was cool to see. Yep. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. She was all over the tank, and we've got a big old clutch of them back behind the filter over there, and there's a big old string of them right across the front of the glass. It was pretty awesome watching her do it. Yeah, the peppered cories are awesome. My favorite though, I think I would have to say my Matei cories are going to be my favorite. They haven't started producing for me yet, neither have the stir-by, but I really like those Matei cories. They have a cool look to them with that, all the dotting down them, and then plus that black tip on their top fin. They look super wicked. I kind of want to get some panda cories too. I really like those things. I've been seeing them at the store, just haven't had an extra tank open to put them in, but I think next time I see them, I'm going to grab some. In other news, we are going to be, excuse me, I am going to be going to Fort Worth for 3 or 4 days. I think I'm going to be leaving Sunday night, and then probably won't be coming back till Wednesday afternoon. Going down there to go help my mom with a few things, do some work for her. She needs a stereo put in and some work on her garage done. But I'm going to be down there for like 4 days. I was thinking about getting a hold of Cecilia from Cecilia's Hobbies if I can. Maybe trying to do a little tour down there with her. Maybe a little Q&A or something. And I'm also going down there to get my back tattoo hopefully finished if he's got enough time to work on it. I've got a full back tattoo with a leprechaun and clovers and all that stuff. As you can see, the red beard here. Yeah. Anybody in the chat have any questions about water changes, or did I explain it well enough, or is there anything I left out that you should think I should add to this for new viewers or anything like that? Sorry, I'm looking off over here to the side. That's where my computer is. I was trying not to stare at it today and look at the computer, actually look at the camera, talk to y'all, but I find myself still attracted to watching myself for some reason. Yeah, in this tank right here, one of the Salvinis is actually hiding in the pot. But we got the pair of Salvinis. We had a trio of the African featherfin catfish, but one of them passed away with that water change fiasco that I had the other day where I didn't put my dechlor in. What about water changes before and after adding new fish? Really, I mean, after you quarantine your fish and everything, I would be, if I was going to be adding new fish and everything from a, and I knew that they were coming into my system, I would feed a little extra. That way that you get, you get your bacteria built up to where it's processing that little bit of extra waste and everything. And then that way, once you add that new fish, it doesn't spike ammonia, spike nitrates, nitrites or nitrates. But then you'll want to go back to testing. Once you add a new fish, you'll want to test the water, at least a couple times, a couple of consecutive weeks to find out how your buildup is going then, and just adjust your water changes accordingly to how much max nitrates you want in your water. Quarantining, that's another subject for another day. I will go into it just a tad here, but for the most part I'll save that for another live stream. And quarantining is one of the most important things you can do in this hobby right now, because there's so many people out there breeding fish, so many places they're coming in from, so much other fish and other animals they're coming into contact with, and so there's lots of diseases and parasites and everything that are in the aquarium fish hobby right now. You really need to quarantine your fish. Even if you don't have a full quarantine system set up, even like a Rubbermaid tote or something like that would work perfectly fine. And just keep a little bit of filter material of some sort cycling in another tank, and pull that out and put it into your little tub, and right there you got an instant quarantine tank. And so many people don't do it nowadays, and it's almost heartbreaking to see how many people have a whole tank of fish die just because they didn't quarantine one fish that they really wanted from a pet store. I mean, and it's such a simple procedure to do. You just put them in water, check on them, feed them and everything. Check on them, give them an air stone or a little filter of some sort, and wait a couple weeks. Make sure that no type of parasites or anything like that are showing. Make sure no type of ick or bacterial infections are showing on them. If they are, then you treat. I mean, you can even do the pre-treatment that like you see on aquarium co-op, and I believe the King of DIY talked about it too. But just pre-treat them with some type of bacterial antibacterial medication, and then some type of parasite medication, and then I think it was a fungal medication of some sort, like metronidazole or whatever it's called. I know somebody's gonna get on me from pronouncing that wrong. There's a couple different types of medication like Icex and all that stuff, but a lot of people will just medicate first and then just watch them for that couple weeks. But I watch my fish first. If I got to quarantine for an extra couple weeks because something popped up, I will. I'd rather not put any chemical in with the fish if I don't have to. That's just my preference. I don't like chemicals. I don't like being around chemicals. I'm an all natural guy. All I drink is sweet tea and water. I have a Coke about once maybe once a week, once a month, if even that. Sometimes I don't have Cokes hardly ever. It's just sweet tea and water. I mean, I don't eat fast food very often, but New England Inler, should we use the cheap wet stuff out of the tap or get a nice dry water? Joking. Always get you nice dry water. Just playing. Most people are gonna have good enough tap to do anything with. I would go on a limb here and say that probably 80% of the United States has water that's good enough to drink or bathe in or use without boiling. Some places there are water you know, toxins and stuff that get into the water from like runoff and stuff from factories and stuff like that. But I would probably say like 80%, and I'm probably wrong here. Somebody correct me if I am, and you know the answer. But that's just, if I had to say, that's about what I would say the amount of the United States has decent drinking water. Fishman, see you guys later. See you later, Fishman. Hope to see you on the next one. If anybody hasn't dropped a like, go ahead and do that. And if anybody isn't subscribed to anybody else on here, go ahead and do that as well. Need to support the fish fam. I definitely could use all the support I could get. But that's pretty much it for my water talk. So if y'all have anything y'all want to talk about, just hit it down in the comments, and I'll give my 2 cents on it. And you know, if y'all want to know anything about any of my fish here in the fish room, just let me know. Talk about whatever y'all want to talk about now. We got about 20 minutes left here in the stream before old Steenfight goes live. I guess I'll talk about these tanks here for a minute. Yeah, this has got Jack Dempsey's in it. This has the Salvini's in it, and it's got the African featherfin catfish and a couple Freddy cichlids. Tight squeeze. Yeah, we I had a pretty good luck with the plants in here. We've got Java moss, or not Java moss. We got Java fern. We got Windelov and the regular type, and then we've got Bulbitis in there as well. Used to have a couple types of Anubias, but ended up I think I pulled that out and put it in another tank, and it ended up dying. It was doing good in here though, and this rock, some Texas Holy Rock, Cholla cactus wood. Y'all seen that huge piece in my 150 gallon last week. These are another couple 4-foot pieces or so, 3.5 foot. Only other thing in there than that are the sponge filters and the clay pots that they use to breed in. And this tank over here, this is my shipwreck tank. Sorry about that. That's my shipwreck tank here. We got the shipwreck decoration. It starts over here actually. It's another 5-foot 100-gallon tank here. And it's got a couple pieces of lava rock in here. 3 sponge filters. The shipwreck decoration. Bulbitis and Java fern again for plants. Basically the only thing that I have found to be able to do good with any of the cichlids that I have. Those actually do pretty good with just about any fish out there. I haven't found a whole lot of fish that'll eat Java fern. Fish in here are some more Freddy cichlids. I believe there's 2 of them. Could be wrong, there might be 3. There's a red terror cichlid in here. Green Texas carpentis. 2 buddy cofree. The tilapias, the African tilapia, and a Jack Dempsey. Oh, and there's a saddled brachyr in there as well. Forgot about that one. And that was the other fish that died out of this tank, was a brachyr. Okay, Mammoth 3. I have a good one when changing fish from one tank to another. What's the water change for that? It's technically different water, right? Technically, it is, depending on what you got in the tank as for substrate, wood, and plants, all that type of stuff. Because you know, some rocks release minerals and everything are going to change the pH. Some of your wood is going to release tannins, which will also change the pH. So first of all, you want to test your water. Second of all, you want to make sure that there's no type of disease or anything going on in either of the tanks. You don't want to transfer any of that. But other than that, if you're taking one fish from another tank and putting it into another tank, I would do a small water change, and then again test nitrates a week later, and then test another week later, and figure out exactly how your buildup's happening, and do your water changes accordingly from there. But yeah, technically it is different water unless you have pretty much all the same stuff in the same tank, or in the two different tanks. Like most of the tanks here at our house are going to be the same water. We're using most of the same wood in all the tanks. We're using a lot of the same type of rock, or inert rock that won't change any type of parameter. So yeah, they're all pretty much the same, and they're all stable, except for this one. Unfortunately, that one right now is going through a bacterial bloom. Yeah, anytime we switch fish between tanks here, it doesn't really take nothing other than just making sure that nothing's going on in either one of the tanks beforehand, and then just pull the fish out and put it in, do a small water change to make sure nothing happens. Good to go. New England Inler, Ford, Dodge, or Chevy? Man, I am a Chevy guy through and through, but I drive a Ford work van, and I almost hate myself for it. But it was whenever I started doing auto glass, probably about 10 years ago now, I started out in the exact same van that I'm in now, and I'm in a 2001 Ford F-250, full-size cargo van, and I bought this sucker for $1,500 almost 3 years ago, and I've only put a couple $100 into it. It's been running strong since, so I can't really down this Ford. I am a Chevy guy. My first car was a '82 Camaro Z28. My second car was a '98 Chevy 1500 pickup. Had a Ford after that. Didn't last very long. Ford Ranger pickup. Had a couple Buicks, Pontiacs, other GM products, and that's mostly what I've stuck with. But I do like my Ford van. I've got to say that thing has done me really well, and it's made me a lot more than what got spent on it. So what about you, New England Inler? Ford, Chevy, or Dodge? Gonna ask me, you gotta answer it yourself. But yeah, while I'm waiting for him to answer that, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about what's going to be coming up pretty soon for videos and everything. This last weekend I was at a friend's house, and he had a 60-gallon tall Marineland tank, and it's just been sitting there empty for months and months that I've seen it there, and people have been trying to buy it from him and everything, and he's not wanting to get rid of it, but he's not wanting to set it up either. So I finally talked him in to let me set it up for him this last weekend, and I took rock over there, took wood over there, and I even brought him the fish, brought him some Java fern. I did all the work for him. Took me most of a day to get it done, but I got him set up, and I'm probably going to be doing a video on at least somewhat of how I set that up for him. It's a pretty cool tank. Gave him my Red Terror Convict hybrids. I gave him about a handful of those, and then a pair of turquoise Severums that were males that weren't going to breed for me. Lumpy Dog Ford Racing. And some Fords are good. Like I said, I do have my Ford van, but I tend to stick with the Chevy when it comes to like the cars. I like my Camaros, especially old school. Some of the new Ford Roush, like the Roush Series 3 Mustangs and stuff, are freaking awesome. But other than that, I like to stick with my Chevys. New England Inler, I got a 67 Dodge Van, 79 Dodge Magnum, a 90 Dodge Ram, 04 Dodge Stratus, and an 08 Jeep. I would say you're a Mopar fan. Wait, you like Ford, right? I remember seeing all the different bumper stickers and everything. You know, a lot of them are too vulgar for me to say right now, but I'm sure you've seen them as well. I am trying to keep this family friendly, so I can't say that. Now going for a motorcycle, huh? There, New England Inler. I haven't owned a motorcycle yet, but I do want one myself. I want, if I get one, I want like a Suzuki TL1000 or even a Hayabusa 1400 or something like that would be awesome. I'm into like the crotch rocket type bikes. If not, then I would have to get like one of the old like what is it? Trying to think of the motorcycle my dad used to have. It's a Honda Nighthawk. That's what he had. Honda Nighthawk 600. But he had the motor board over and heads ported and polished and had all kinds of stuff done to it. That was a wicked bike. I'd love to find a 70 Super B or a 73 Javelin. Oh yeah, those Javelins are some beautiful, beautiful cars. The Super Bs, oh my God, that growing up, probably I think I was 12, 13 years old when I started really getting into muscle cars and stuff a lot. Started doing my own mechanicking and stuff like that. And the Super B was my favorite car. I had posters of it all over the place. Had, you know, a picture in my back pocket everywhere that I carried around. Lumpy Dog 01 Track Prep Mustang Cobra. That's what you got? I bet you that's a sick ass, or oh, excuse me guys. See, I'm already messing up. Bet you that's a sick car. Are y'all lagging behind that far behind that I'm still talking fish? V-Stag's in the house. What's going on? Yep, I do love my fish. From the time that I was, you know, able to walk down to the creek myself up till now, I've always loved them. I used to walk down every day after school, grab my fishing pole, and just head out fishing. Once the street lights started coming back on, tore my butt back home. Thanks, V-Stag. I do like my Popeye shirt. Me and Popeye get along. Except I don't like spinach. Yep, what else we got going on? Like I said, I'll probably be coming out with the filter build video for the saltwater tank. I'll definitely be doing a video on setting up the saltwater tank, you know, upgrading it from the 10 gallon to the 20 gallon. I'm still psyched at that filter I made. I've got it on the 10 gallon right now and it's working perfect. It skims the top and it also algae scrubs. It's awesome. I love it. Got about 5 minutes left, so Q&A away. You got a question, I'll answer that sucker. I'm scrolled all the way down. Cobra is brutal to drive on the road, goes around corners like a go-kart. Every seam in the road feels like running over a brick. Loud as heck when inside without interior. I bet. I used to have a Mustang race car. It was a 85 Mustang LX. It wasn't a hatchback GT, but it was a 85 LX. My dad had it. It was a 4-cylinder, and my dad gave it to me after he wrecked it and blew the motor. And my stepdad in Colorado City, which is about 20 miles away from here where I grew up, my stepdad had a Ford Fairlane 500 that he had a 302 with 351 heads, pushing about 650 horsepower just on straight on the motor. Dome pistons, you know, the works. It had, I think he said it was 13-to-1 compression, something like that. It was a awesome motor, and we put that in there. Got down the track 2 or 3 times before I hit an oil slick and put it into a wall at about 100 miles an hour. So I didn't get to drive that car very long. My Camaro, that thing, I put it on the track a few times too. It had the 350, 4-bolt main 350, you know, Edelbrock carb, Edelbrock intake, you know, all that fun stuff. It's about 350, 400 horsepower, but quick car and everything. And took it down the track probably a dozen times or so, and then turned 18, started getting into trouble, and had to sell it to bail myself out of jail. So there went my race cars. Now I'm down to a van and a Suburban. I do have a, I believe it's an 87 Firebird. I did some glass work for my uncle, and he had that Firebird body sitting there. So I have a 87 Firebird. I believe he said it was a WS3 or WS6. And so yeah, I have that sitting there, but it's got no motor, no tranny. Interior torn out, needs a lot of work, so that won't be getting going anytime soon. And I had a Volkswagen Beetle race car, but I only had it for about 6 months and only got to take it around once or twice. That thing was awesome. It had a GX 2180 Porsche motor. It was it wasn't a Porsche motor, but it was a remake of the Porsche motor, aftermarket. And that sucker had almost 300 horsepower, and a Beetle, that thing was crazy. Lost an oil pump at 6,800 RPMs. Goodbye engine. Had some fun spinning through the grass at Gingerman Raceway. Yeah, I bet you that was fun. That was a fun ride. And even hitting that wall was a fun ride until I smacked it, you know, and then woke up a few minutes later. Smacking a wall at 100 miles an hour, even with a 5-point harness, hurts. New England Endler, I'm thinking a Kawi KLR 650 dual sport or a Harley 883 iron. Gotta love your Harleys. Kawasaki KLRs. Kawasaki and Harley are both good brands. You know, everybody's gonna say the Harley's better, of course, just because it costs more, but Kawasaki's are definitely good bikes too. V-Stag, I missed my 99 Wrangler, had a 502 33-inch tires, cable lockers, and a 456 in both rears. I crawl and spank most street cars. Oh man, I bet you that thing was wicked. I'd love to have me a big old rock crawling machine. I'm from West Texas here, so we have the mud bogs and all that stuff, and you see some wicked machines out there. And definitely a 99 Wrangler with a 502 would definitely be something pretty wicked. But now I've been in my burnout contest and in my my mud bog contest, all that stuff. I've never had really any. The biggest truck I had was just a single cab Chevy pickup with some 33-inch Mickey Thompson grabblers. I can't remember exactly what they were called, but yeah, 33-inch Mickey Thompson off-road tires, and that sucker was pretty fun. Only 2-wheel drive, so it didn't do too special, but it was fun. Yep. All right, it's 7 o'clock now, and Steam Fox is going to be going live. Lumpy Dog 456 rear, 456 gears. Did you start in second gear on the road? Yeah. Yeah. Well, good stream, guys. It's definitely been nice talking to y'all. Thanks for coming out and everything. Make sure, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. Make sure you get notified when I go live and everything. I'm doing this every Thursday, 6 o'clock, unless something else comes up. Of course, we all do have our life and everything, so every once in a while I may not be able to make it, but I'll make it as often as I can. But y'all have a good one. If you can share this out, that would help out a lot. We have a Patreon page if you want to check that out or anything. Don't have to support or anything like that. Not asking for it, but we do have a page just in case you want to. Other than that, you guys have a good one. It's been nice hanging with you, and see you later. Bye bye.